Hello and welcome to the day ahead. It is Tuesday, December the 2nd. I'm Andrew Gagan. The local market is set to open higher with ASX futures up just over 0.1%. Global equities have begun the week negatively following 5 straight sessions of gains. This ahead of key economic data that could determine if the US Federal Reserve cuts interest rates this month. US stocks were weighed down by rising Treasury yields as data showed persistent weakness in the manufacturing sector due to the tariff impost. US chip design software maker Synopsys surged after Nvidia took a $2 billion stake in the chip design software maker as a part of a broader engineering and design tie-up aiming to infuse its AI computing technology into more industries. Shares of EV maker Tesla slipped as monthly registrations, which are regarded as a proxy for sales, slumped almost 60% in France from a year earlier. Shares of vaccine makers Moderna and Novavax fell as the US FDA Chief Medical and Scientific Officer told agency staffers that COVID vaccinations probably contributed to the deaths of at least 10 children who died of heart inflammation. Shares of Rio Tinto and BHP rose, tracking higher prices of copper. And shares of cryptocurrency and blockchain-related companies fell as Bitcoin extended its losses after its steepest monthly decline since the 2021 crypto crash. US manufacturing contracted for the 9th straight month in November, with factories facing slumping orders and high prices for inputs as the drag from import tariffs persisted. The Institute of Supply Management's manufacturing index easing half a point to 48.2, with the measure remaining below 50, which indicates contraction. US consumers are expected to spend more than $14 billion on Cyber Monday, according to Adobe Analytics, after a strong Black Friday weekend that saw wealthier consumers spend freely and lower income shoppers hunt for deals. Americans are expected to spend around 6% more online than last year's Cyber Monday, traditionally the country's largest online shopping day, and the culmination of the 4-day shopping frenzy that begins the day after Thanksgiving. US online spending on Black Friday hit a record $11.8 billion and $23.6 billion for the weekend overall. That's up around 9% from last year, according to Adobe, which tracks 1 trillion visits that shoppers make to online retail websites. US Treasuries have fallen, pressured by weakness in Japanese and European government bonds following comments from the Bank of Japan governor who signalled that conditions were aligning for a possible rate hike there. US 2-year Treasury yield rising to 3.54%, the 10-year lifting to 4.09%, while the Australian 3-year government bond yield has risen to 3.96% and the 10-year at 4.61%. The US dollar index has little change. The Aussie is trading at 65.4 US cents. Oil prices have risen following drone attacks by Ukraine, the closure of Venezuelan airspace by the United States, and OPEC's decision to leave output levels unchanged for the first quarter of 2026. Brent crude futures up 1% at $63 a barrel. Copper rose more than 0.5%. Iron ore up 1.2% to $106 a ton. And gold has risen to a 6-week high, supported by growing expectations of US rate cuts and a weaker US dollar, while silver struck a record high ahead of key US economic data. Spot gold around $4,235 an ounce. And Bitcoin has tumbled below $86,000 and has lost around a third of its value in the past 8 weeks. Locally today, we get building approvals for October and the balance of payments for the September quarter. And on the corporate front, the Bank of Queensland holds AGM and Collins Foods releases its half-yearly report. That is your day ahead. We'll see you again tomorrow.